Hi everyone, Jedediah Thomas, the Mind Master here. It has been a very long time. It's been months since I made a video. There are a couple reasons for that, so I'll go into a little bit about that, some personal updates with myself, some updates about my business, how I'm structuring that, and some other things that I have going on, and then also some updates about the actual practical application of my work as well. So, in terms of personal updates, about 3 months ago, we had a new internet company come through and they were laying their fiber optic cable and they didn't mark our cable. And so they came through and cut our cable about 5 or 6 times with a backhoe, and then we lost our internet. Now, you would think that that would be as simple a matter of just having it get fixed, but the company that we were part of, um, they decided to cut corners, and so when they reinstalled a new cable, they tied it to a cable that had been sitting above ground for however many years, and it was corroded. It was like completely useless, and so even though we technically got internet back, it was cutting out like 10 to 15 times an hour. Like it was impossible to do anything at all. And so the company that came through and laid the fiber optic cable, I was trying to switch to them because fiber optic was a lot faster than what we had. And we were part of like a huge subdivision type of project that was like 60 something addresses or more. And they were waiting for Department of Transportation approval, so this whole last 3 months, I was stuck on basically zero internet, and I couldn't switch over because this company couldn't just like they had it installed and they just couldn't flick the switch because of government red tape. But now I have internet again, and not only do I have internet again, it is hundreds of times faster than what I had before. Like I had like 12 down and one up, and now I have like 500 up and 500 down. So it's like literally hundreds of times better than what we had. So what that means is I can actually record more videos. I was running into a lot of technological limitations before. Now my content, video content, the volume can increase. Hopefully that improves the image quality as well. I think that was more due to bad internet than my webcam. So we'll see. So that should be a huge improvement of visual and audio. And so that's one side of things. The other side of things is after 13 years, I'm no longer disabled, which sounds really weird. Okay, so about 13 years ago, I had like overnight symptoms come on me that I've seen 60 plus doctors for and nobody could diagnose. I've seen all different specialties, neurologists, psychiatrists, like everybody, nobody could figure it out. I've seen physical therapists, massage therapists, I've seen chiropractors, structural integrators, nobody could figure this out. And basically I was severely disabled. I've lost so many jobs because I just couldn't physically work. Full body convulsions, weakness, tiredness. Like basically I've been completely physically useless for the last 13 years. And I finally figured out what it is I had multiple pinched nerves in my neck, like C1, C2, three, C3, C4, C5, somewhere in there. There was like multiple pinched nerves. So I one day about 3 weeks ago, I was like, cracking my neck like I normally do, and there was like an extra shift at like C4, C5, and like 90% of my symptoms went away, right? And then so I got like a cervical traction thing so that I can pull my head out, and so now actually I have my body back. So that that was like a major thing that was holding me back in terms of like I could only work like between half an hour and a couple hours a day, and like that was all I could do like for the last more than a decade. And now I actually have a body again. My focus is better, like everything is working out better because now like I don't have that crazy electrical feedback that's been going on in my spinal cord for a long time. And it's sort of also relevant to the mind work that I do in the sense that neurologists who are supposed to be experts in neurology have no clue how to do neurology because they are not familiar with electricity, right? Like they are looking at the wrong part of the system, right? It was an electrical problem, it was an electrical feedback loop, and it was fixed by fixing that electrical structural feedback loop, and neurologists were completely clueless. And I was assured by multiple neurologists that's not how the body works. That's impossible, that it's a nerve problem. It's got to be psychiatric, right? They're liars. Neurologists have no clue what they're doing. And that's a corollary to psychologists, psychiatrists. They don't know how the mind works either. Like, they don't even know how the body works. So now I know more about the body than neurologists do, but I've also known more about the mind than psychologists for quite a while now. So just because someone calls themselves a doctor doesn't mean anything, right? They have a degree, but their degree is in the wrong field, right? Psychology is not the study of the mind. Psychiatry is not the study of the mind. Therapy does not fix the mind. Electrical engineering and software coding are the studies of the mind. And if you know anything about those fields, you know more than any psychologist on the planet, because their psychology is useless for understanding the mind, just like the neurologists were useless for understanding that I had a neurological problem. So anyways, after a few months of no internet, after 13 years of disability, I'm now back in the saddle, going full force, and things are accelerating quite rapidly. So that's my personal updates. Now I'll kind of get into business updates, things about, stuff that I've got going on. So let me share my screen here. Let's see. And yeah. And you can just ignore all my tabs. I like tabs. All right, cool. But that's not what I'm listening. There we are. So the first thing I want to go over is, so previously, if you've seen the last videos that I've created, which was months and months and months ago, I had created a $20 a month group called the Initiates of the Mysteries of the Mind. That didn't quite get off the ground, so I ended up scrapping that, and I've now created a free mind group on Facebook, and I'll have the link in the description. So if you want to join that, don't look for my profile, join the group, and then I'll be able to let you in. So that's the Mysteries of the Mind on Facebook. Right. So if you want to join that, hop in, right? And I've also kind of, in the same move of getting rid of the Initiates of the Mysteries of the Mind group, I've also created my church interest group. If you're interested in that, just hit me up on Facebook. I'm not trying to make this YouTube channel religious or spiritual. There's a lot of stuff in my work that kind of touches on those areas, so I do mention it a lot, and I will mention it here, but it's not specifically focused on spirituality, so I want to kind of keep this separation. At some point, I may create another YouTube channel specifically for the church that I'm starting, but that's not what I'm going into here, so don't worry about that. But anyways, in terms of structure, right, the clergy of the church will be trained in my mind methodology, and they'll be able to heal people. So anyone who's in the church can have mental and spiritual healing. The clergy will help facilitate that, and then anyone who's in the mind group and they want to work with me or want to work on their mind with the methodologies that I've developed, then they can get mental and spiritual healing too. So you don't necessarily have to join the church to get healing, right? If you want to, that's great. There's people in the church group that are not in my mind group. There's people in the mind group that are not in the church group, and it will stay that way probably forever. But officially, the work that I'm doing is spiritual in nature, even though it sounds extremely practical when you experience it. There's a lot of spiritual implications of that help alleviate entirely spiritual problems that science doesn't know about, or they know about them, but they deny that they exist. So anyways, the point is that if you want to join a church group, you can, but I'm not really promoting it here. If you want to join the mind group, you can, but now you kind of understand the new big picture of what I've got going on. So the ultimate goal of everything is healing on whatever level that you need, right? Okay, so that's kind of like the business, organizational updates. And now I'll go into actually updates about the work that I've been doing. So what I've been able to understand is that traumas and multiple personalities are actually different expressions of the same response in the body, right? you might know of the fight, flight, or freeze response. So I have actually got an extra F there, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But basically, the trauma is the more normal of the two, right? So you experience a traumatic situation, you go into fight, flight, or freeze, and it's so traumatic that it creates a snapshot of that, right? That situation. And it's basically like a snapshot of that response, right? That snapshot would not happen if that response does not get triggered, right? So it's like our normal response to external trauma, right? And that's what I've like. That was one of the first couple things that I started fixing, and I've fixed a lot of people and a lot of traumas, and it's very quick. Like if you can fix a trauma in 5 minutes, you might have 100 traumas, you might have 500 traumas, but like I fix it better and faster than anyone with like a specific trauma. Now, in the course of my work, I encountered a client who had multiple personalities. I think we discovered three or four. So not like probably the worst case that you've ever experienced, but it was severe enough to actually be a problem. And their multiple personalities, they had segmented, like one had one skill set, one had a different personality, different skill set, different memories. Like it was complicated to navigate, which I was actually able to do very easily. Once I knocked out all the traumas, then I just fixed all the multiple personalities, and it went back to normal. But what I wasn't sure about for a very long time is why the multiple personalities happen to begin with. And what I've been able to understand is that each of their personalities was a very distinctive one of these Fs, right? It was a fight personality, it was a freeze personality, it was a flee personality, or this other F, like I said, I'll get into in a couple minutes. But it's like, so trauma is like a quick snapshot of um, a traumatic situation. A multiple personality is like when that fight, flight, freeze response gets activated so intensely for such a, I'm assuming it's based on an amount of time, but it actually becomes like its own program, like its own software. So not just an image like a JPEG or a PNG file, it becomes like an MP4, right? So it creates its own like separate file that operates independently, but it's not the main personality. So based on the work that I've been doing, based on the research I've been looking into, I'm fairly certain that that is the cause of multiple personalities. So whatever nonsense the psych people come up with, whether it's they say genetic or some other BS, it's not correct. Like they don't know what they're talking about. So yeah. Anyways, that's multiple personalities traumas. ADHD. Made some major advancements with my clients who have ADHD. So basically, I was trying to mainly look at traumas and beliefs, and I was kind of ignoring this motivation side. And it turned out that the motivation side was actually integral in it, which is kind of funny because it was my original, three triangles, right? Traumas, limiting beliefs, and motivation. And I was so successful with my methodologies with trauma and limiting beliefs, I just kind of ignored the motivation side and I was focusing entirely on those. But I was able to figure out how to, rewire motivation using belief shifting as well. So that ended up being extremely powerful to increase the motivation. And that's even separate from my normal motivation method. So like I've got even more methodologies now than the last time I was recording. But anyways, in order for someone to do the action, in this case, it was studying because they had a lot of, trauma around studying, a lot of beliefs around studying, and they just didn't want to. Like part of them wanted to, consciously they wanted to, but they just couldn't do it. Like their subconscious did not want to study at all. So in order for them to be able to do it, they have to want to study, right? That's motivation. They have to believe that they can learn, which is beliefs, and then not afraid of the consequences one way or the other, which is trauma. So only by fixing all three of those components were we actually able to fully resolve the symptoms. And of course, I'm not part of the medical industry. I don't diagnose or treat any mental illness. I deal in fixing problems, right? So the medical industry will still say that they have ADHD, still says that they have executive dysfunction, but now they have zero symptoms. So who cares about a label if it doesn't mean anything, right? So that's where I'm coming from. So yeah, technically I didn't cure anything, but they're better. I'll say that. All right, now we get to this FFFF response, right? Fight, flight, freeze, fun. Okay, it's kind of a weird thing to throw in there, but it's actually, I discovered this partly from the multiple personality archetypes that I was working with, and also from experiences in my past, right? So one of the personalities we worked on, very aggressive, very in your face kind of thing. One was like very, very not wanting to talk to me, right? It was running away, it was hiding, it was just not wanting to communicate. And then basically that was causing their kind of main personality to shut down and freeze. But then this original fight personality actually had quite a fun component to it. So it was aggressive, but then it was also kind of toying with people, kind of like a cat would a mouse. So it felt a lot more powerful than it was because it was treating life like a game, right? So that was kind of the archetype. And in terms of my own past, I recall I was like, my parents were like super abusive growing up. And there was one time where I was about to get in trouble for something, I don't remember what, and I was probably about to get beat to an inch of my life as usual. And one time I just looked at, my parents, and they were about to, I was about to get trouble, and I just like my mind shut off and I just started laughing. Like I just like, it just became the funniest thing. I just laughed him to scorn, and that totally dissolved the situation. But that was like, it was like a trauma response to the situation, to the abuse that was happening. Like instead of fight, flight, freeze, it was just like it became a game, right? So that's the actual fourth F of that response. It's the same response, but it just manifests in different ways. So when people have a nervous laugh, that's an example of that, right? So it's, as opposed to running away or getting aggressive or just shutting down, then they kind of get this kind of more humorous component to it. So that is, as far as I know, the complete picture there. There might be more, but those are like the main archetypes of that response. And like I said, that response is why we have traumas and why we get multiple personalities. Okay. So that's a huge update in understanding. Because like I can fix anything in the mind, but I don't necessarily know all of why stuff happens to begin with. So this is important, not to actually fix the problem so much because I was already fixing it, but to understand how to prevent it in other people and kind of create more preventative measures as opposed to trying to catch it after the fact and then resolve it. What a lot of what I'm trying to do is create ways to prevent people from getting traumatized, from develop limiting beliefs to begin with, and then operating from a more healthy point of view without having to need all of this, deep, impactful work that I do. Okay, and then another update with chakras. So chakras are what I call the soul body interface. They're like, if you think of your body and your soul is kind of like the same shape as your body, but they have to connect somehow, right? So the chakras, it's almost like when you like button, snap, 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 snap. That's like how your body snaps to your soul, right? And then of course I have probably other videos about what the soul is. It's electrical, so it's not like this imaginary like woo-woo thing. It's like an actual physical thing, and it does interact with our body, and that's what controls our body. But anyways, the chakras are how these things actually interact with each other. And some of my clients had chakra issues, and for some reason I was trying to treat them entirely from the mind, right? Like, even though I knew they were partly a body component, for some reason it just never occurred to me to actually worry about the body side of things, right? So it only changed when one of my clients said, hey, I had all of these chakra problems and I got acupuncture and now they got fixed. And I was like, wow, okay, that makes so much sense, right? Because that's exactly what my model would say. There's a mental component, there's a physical component, And it just never, like, for whatever reason, it just never occurred to me that that was the case. So acupuncture definitely helps with chakra problems if they're physical problems, right? If it's mental, I can help with the mental side, the electrical, the spiritual side, but the acupuncture, like, I can't work on the physical. You actually have to have something changing your body. Now, there's another exercise that I found out about from another one of my clients that could possibly function similar to acupuncture, and that's stimulating your vagus nerve. So you can, like, YouTube, different ways to do that. There's one, I might make another video about that specifically, which one I found. But basically, the idea is that there are actual physical blockages in addition to the mental, spiritual blockages, and they do require some kind of physical input to work on, right? And so you can see here, according to my model, right? I knew it was the case, right? I knew it was soul and body. I knew it was like it was right in front of me, and I just couldn't see it until they said acupuncture, and I was like, holy cow, okay, that was the answer, because that was like one of the biggest, the top two biggest mysteries that I was trying to figure out was how to work on the chakral stuff, because it just, like, it escaped me, even though it was right in front of me. So that mystery is resolved. Acupuncture and what I do is definitely going to help, and then possibly the vagus nerve stuff as well. All right, and then the last thing here, these soul imprints. I have a video about this. They're more esoteric than anything that you've ever heard of. Like, you've heard of demons, you've heard of this stuff, and that's esoteric. This is beyond esoteric. Nobody knows that they exist, basically. Maybe the Hindus, like, they kind of saw it as karma, but it's not quite karma. It's actually an electrical signature that gets attached to you. So basically, when I had first made the video about that, I had probably removed, I don't know, 20 from myself, and over the last few weeks I've removed, gosh, probably more than 50 total, if not more. They're extremely prolific. Like, I have no idea if, it's just I have a lot, or if, like, everyone has a lot, and how common they are, because I've worked on 3 people with imprints, and every one of them had more than 20, right? But for some reason I had more than, even some of them. So I don't know what actually causes them, whether it's a natural phenomenon, whether it's, like, one of my theories was it's a delivery mechanism for something else, like a curse, or demonic possession. It's like the lubricant that kind of, like, happens as a byproduct of the other thing, but I have no idea, right? So why they come about, I have no idea, but they are extremely powerful and yet extremely subtle, and you wouldn't even know that they exist unless you fix all your other, traumas and whatnot. But they do have a huge impact, like, huge impact. So if you have them, they probably need to go away, but how you know that you have them, you won't know until you fix other stuff. So that's the best I can tell you. So those are all the updates. A lot has happened in the last few months. I know it seems like I kind of dropped off the map completely, and I did, but like I said, it was because of my health, which is now completely better, and my internet, which, I have a friend in India who has better internet than I have, which is really sad. So that's the United States for you. Anyways, things are moving in the right direction. I'm still working on people. I'm still taking clients. I'm still growing my business. I'm learning marketing, right? So that's kind of part of why some of those developments happened. I'm learning the more bigger picture of how I need to structure things, how I need to bring people in, turn them into clients, and grow. So I will be growing now that it's possible. So stay tuned for more videos. If this was valuable for you, be sure, definitely like and subscribe. But if you look down in the description of the video, I have a link to my Facebook group. So I'll be using that for all descriptions from now on, basically. Go join the free group, answer the questions. If you want me to reach out, I will. If you don't, I won't, kind of thing. So just come in, let me know what you want to hear about, why you're there, what you're struggling with, and we'll see what we can do for you. and stay tuned for more videos. And then I'll see you on the channel, and I'll see you in the group. All right. Bye.